It might be time to follow the dot of U.S. cronyism and entitlement culture. Get this, the media dinosaurs are gushing over a seemingly heroic public servant teacher bringing suit against Federal Department of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos for not forgiving all of her remaining student loans. Hi, fellow taxpayers. I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. You know, a number of years ago, I spent time in Washington, D.C. covering Capitol Hill, and I quickly discovered that their so-called hearings were nothing more than propaganda platforms. They were just shows put on to call emotion-triggering witnesses and curry pop media favor to promote a political agenda, typically to expand the size of the federal government. So when I saw all these gushing reports from the pop media looking at the public servant, a New York school teacher appearing before Congress to discuss her suit against Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, I knew I had to scratch below the surface.
My name's Kelly and I live in New York City.
Now, according to the hand-wringing report from CNN's Kate Labosco, a middle school art teacher who was denied loan forgiveness by the Department of Education is going to Capitol Hill Thursday to explain why she's suing Secretary Betsy DeVos over the alleged mismanagement of the program. Yes, cue the violins. This teacher is an example of the self-effacing, nun-like, priest-like pleasure deniers sacrificing for the community and for the children, and we should back her. Or perhaps when one decides that he or she is going to live off money forcibly taken from other people, it's not wise to call it a salary, and even less to call it a career. And perhaps such a person should be wise not to complain when the also tax-funded government decides not to forgive the loans he or she took out to get a degree, loans that were from a government-created unconstitutional education loan corporation. You know, parasitism is not a strong position from which to claim the moral high ground. Unless one lives in entitlement culture USA, then it's the epitome of saintliness, and you get an invite from Congress to push for more tax cash to be showered on people getting degrees to go into the tax-funded public sector. Continues Labosco for CNN. Kelly Finlaw, who teaches in New York, couldn't wait to apply for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, PSLF, which cancels remaining debt for public sector workers after they make 10 years of payments. But when her 10 years was up in 2017, Finlaw's application was denied because one of her loans was ineligible. What a heroic, solitary fight. This lone woman taking on the government system. Unless you look into it more deeply, which is exactly what I did. I did some digging, and it turns out that this is much bigger. In fact, this is something that's being put forward by one of the biggest unions in the country, and it was all set up beforehand. In fact, CNN got a copy of her prepared testimony, and it was in a bit of an article. Quote, "If the PSLF program wasn't for me, a teacher who loves her job, pays her bills, and comes from a family where loans were her only option, who was it meant for?" End quote. Finlaw is expected to say to members of the House Education and Labor Committee. Oh, there's something constitutional, according to her prepared testimony.
Oh, good grief.
Well, evidently Ms. Finlaw doesn't want to pay her bills. She wants taxpayers already on the hook to pay her public sector salary to pay the bills she took on herself. Those would be the bills acquired to get an art education degree at tax-subsidized Grace College and a master's in urban studies at tax-subsidized Eastern University, allowing her to spend more time, as Beyond Skin tells us, painting murals, publishing prints, and doodling when she's not traveling around the globe painting for the Philly-based Build a Bridge nonprofit organization, which, yeah, you guessed it, is also subsidized by the government of Pennsylvania. Notice a pattern here? Well, it turns out Ms. Finlaw isn't the only heroic teacher involved in this crusade to expand college forgiveness for people who go into the public sector. She's one of many members of the huge American Federation of Teachers union that brought this suit in July. And as AFT Union President Randy Weingarten has said, quote, "Public service loan forgiveness is a right, but Betsy DeVos has turned it into a crapshoot," end quote. Right? Entitlement? It seems Ms. Weingarten doesn't understand the nature of rights, which are negative or hands-off. You have a right to be left alone by me. I have a right to be left alone by you. Rights are not positive, as in posited by politicians in the government, where people claim they have a right to anything from anyone else. But of course, FinLaw and the AFT think differently. They cite the anti-constitutional George W. Bush's program and sue the also tax-funded anti-constitutional Department of Education in a move to be heard in the tax-funded courts. So here's a question. When in the world are these public sector parasites going to acknowledge the only human entitlement that has ever existed and will ever exist? The natural God-given right to be left alone. Freedom. It's pretty simple. And it's nowhere in this equation. No matter how much they claim, it's for the children. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the little bell because it's supposed to tell you when new videos are up. And try to share these videos yourself with friends because social media gets a little squirrely sometimes. And also, we highly recommend that people visit MRCTV.org because there's so much going on at the actual website that you don't get an opportunity to see in social media. Thanks so much. For MRC-TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.